Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay guys, back with a weekly update for XRP and HBAR. As always, a lot going on, so I'll give you a quick breakdown so you know what the latest happenings are. So we start off with XRP, a Q1 RWA utility surge. So yeah, basically there was a report that was put out, and it basically told us that XRP ETF holdings has hit 775 million, and also there was a 124% RWA surge. So as you can see, adoption is continuing to grow. It's one of these things where you might see stuff in terms of the price action, not looking so great, but in terms of actual adoption, things are happening. And for me, the way I personally see it, it's that kind of stuff that is going to lead to the price action in the end, because yes, obviously we go through these market cycles and whatever, but eventually it's going to be a thing where these markets aren't just going to be about speculation. It's going to be about what blockchains are being adopted, what are being utilized, etc., what are useful, what are going to be there in the long term. So for me, I think that's a real great thing to see. Next, we move on to the whole DTCC XLM thing, right? I've obviously discussed this in a video at length, so I'm not going to speak on it too much here, but the DTCC have chosen XLM for tokenization. This has caused a bit of a stir within the XRP community because they thought this is something that XRP would have been chosen for, so there's a lot of questions here. So I'm going to give you a very short answer in regards to this because I don't want to cover everything off all over again, but the long and short of it is that they've chosen XLM. Right. At the end of the day, we just have to accept that. Is it possible that XRP could be chosen as well in the future? Yes, they have actually said that they would use multiple chains, not just one. So it is possible that XRP could still get picked. But as it stands right now, they've chosen XLM. I don't think that's all doom and gloom. I don't think that's the end for XRP, because we can see a lot of adoption still happening on the XRP ledger, as I just said with that Q1 report. There's RWA activity surging. So yes, the DTCC would have been a nice addition for XRP to have been chosen, of course. But that's just not what's happened. So the way I'm just looking at it now, because I do see a lot of influencers still trying to link this to XRP. If you ask me, that's very hype. It's that hype of trying to connect dots, and they're trying to cling to XRP desperately because it's their money train, it's their gravy train, right? So they wanna keep still trying to link everything to XRP because they don't want to lose their views and their engagement. But to me, this has been very it's been very telling to the hype influencers. Once again, it shows you the garbage that they've been putting out has no merit to it because they're just pushing conspiracy theories. Yeah, as I say, at the end of the day, it could be that XRP gets picked at a later date, but that's just not the case at the moment. I hold XRP and I hold XLM, but I do hold more XRP than XLM. So honestly, I would have rather have been XRP, but I'm not going to deny reality here. They've picked XLM and that's just what it is. Now, in the future, XRP might get picked, but if it doesn't, then it doesn't. We just looked at other things. It doesn't mean that XRP can't still be a good asset now because the DTCC chose XLM. That's one thing. So there could be successes in other areas where XRP gets picked. So I just look at it as let's move on and go to the future, basically. The other thing here we've got is talking about XRP having a potential surge through Japan. So the long and short of this is they believe that in the Japanese markets, there could be a lot of adoption that could push XRP to new levels of price discovery and adoption, etc. Yeah, I do think there's a potential for this. The Japanese market is massive, absolutely massive. So at the end of the day, we've seen that when it comes to APAC, the Asia, Pacific region, etc., that kind of thing, they love XRP. They really do. Over there, XRP gets traded more than Bitcoin and Ethereum. So when you think about that, and SBI is a great example. SBI Holdings, they've been doing so much to try and push XRP. They really are big advocates for XRP. So if they can continue to try and push, further adoption and more products get, released, because they love XRP over there, I just think that they will support it. There's a big market over there for XRP. So the more stuff that gets, released and stuff, I think the more you get supported and the more that could, help in the long term. So yeah, I think there's real great opportunity there. Okay, so moving on, Hedera. There was a recent report from the Bank of England, and it was talking about how basically with DLT, trying to get things in terms of, instant settlement, finality, stuff these kind of things that you would want. they're basically saying that there's normally like trade-offs, right? So they're saying like if you want like instant settlement, there's going to be things that you have to sacrifice to make that happen. And Hedera basically said like, we'd thought about this from before, and we've got things in place to basically try and mitigate those trade-offs. So this is why Hedera is a great choice when it comes to, like finance, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I said this before, like, this is where you see like how when it comes to the future adoption of cryptos, you'll see where like the companies and the networks that have really put time into their projects, their networks and stuff, you'll see in the long term. Because yes, right now they might seem like buzzwords and things like that, and you might think, well, why is it not being adopted, or why is the price not going up? These are the types of things that the institutions are going to want when like clarity's put through. When the clarity is done and everything's sorted, and you've got the institutions coming in for mass adoption, these are the things that they're going to look at. The things that Hedera have got in place for, finality that doesn't get, impacted in any kind of negative way. Those are the things that are going to benefit Hedera. So it might not be, as big right now, but in the future you could see like, hey, this is why Hedera did so great, because they'd thought about a lot of these things in the past, and it's paid off for them in the future. Right, so they'd thought about these potential problems they could have and built their network around that to try and, be a good choice and to try and mitigate some of those issues. So yeah, I think that puts them in a great position for the future. We've then got Hedera being one of the most used blockchains. Yes, so ChainSpect released basically an image just showing you the latest, I think it was the top 25 most used blockchains on Earth. And that was done by TGE, which is token generation event, sorry. And that basically just means since the tokens were created. And the top three were IOP, Solana, and Hedera. So Hedera came third as the most used blockchain on Earth. For me, what I think that's very telling is because it shows you that the network is in heavy demand, right? And it could be a very strong indicator for the future, right? Because if it's in a high demand now as one of the most used blockchains, just think about if it scales, right? And look, Hedera didn't come first. I said this before, like, I don't care. I don't care that it didn't come first. Like, I'm not on this thing of like Hedera has to win everything and has to be the first and the best for everything, because I don't believe it's going to be a one chain to rule them all anyway. The fact that Hedera is in the top three is very impressive. And things can change, right? As time develops and time moves on, this is where as mass adoption comes in. Things like I said earlier with Hedera putting themselves in a place where the way they've built the network, that could benefit them in the future where, Hedera starts getting used more. You never know. But it doesn't matter to me whether it comes first or third. That's still the top three. That's still big. And that still means that could definitely be in the talks for bigger adoption as it grows out. And the more people who are using the chain in terms of like developers as well, is the more types of things that can be created, like use cases and stuff like that, which could get heavy adoption. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again, all it takes is one big use case to make a network blow up, and that one use case could be the future of that whole chain. So, it's one of those things where like the opportunities, the more developers you've got in there, the more opportunities you've got. But even if, let's say, there's not just one big use case, multiple use cases is still going to help, because it's basically multi-purpose, right? There's numerous things you can do on that one chain. So for me, that's still a huge positive. Last thing I've got here is Hedera getting to the finals of the Future Finance. So there's a Future Finance Awards. And basically, Hedera has got to the final round to potentially win this award. So yeah, like when you hear this, just think, oh, it's just an award. But what I'm saying is, like, listen to the title, the Future of Finance. Like, this is the kind of thing that where, like for example, word of mouth. One of the best methods of promotion is still word of mouth to this day. The reason why word of mouth is such a strong way of promotion is because it's organic, right? So for example, if you pay someone for an ad, like an ad on YouTube, okay, that's still strong, but it's been forced to you, right? Whereas if, for example, I go to someone and I say, hey, I used Hedera and it was a really good network, it could do this, it could do that. That's just me saying it off of my own back as someone who's used the network. Like, no one's forcing me to say that. I'm just coming and saying, hey, yeah, like I used it and I thought it was really good and this is why. So that's always going to be one of the strongest ways of promotion, because it's natural. It is not someone force feeding it to you. That's just someone giving you their perspective. And so when you look at it in that regard, if Hedera wins this Future of Finance award, that's one of those things where, like, if you've got institutions who are looking at ways to, you know, like come in and like looking at what networks they want to utilize, etc., this is where seeing these kinds of things could be massive for Hedera, right? Because they could say, oh, they won awards for like the Future of Finance. Okay, so they must be very good in terms of finance. Then it must be a very good blockchain if it's won awards. That sounds promising. That's the kind of thing that we'd want, right? A network that's been recognized for this type of, you know, this type of sector. So you could get finance companies who see that, and that could give them enough intrigue to then want to utilize or develop on the platform. So while it is just an award, yes, they don't really get anything other than an award. It's about what the reputation says and what that could do in terms of the effect of later on, or the word of mouth aspect, that kind of thing. It's going to give them a stigma, and a positive stigma, I mean. But in terms of like finance, they could say, hey, yeah, we've won awards. That's how good we are. This is how like forward thinking we are and innovative we are as a network. We've won awards as the Future of Finance. So it's a very positive thing, most definitely. So I just think that's something that's got a lot of potential there. They've got to the finals, so it's not like official that they've won yet, but even getting to the finals is great. Obviously, if they win, that would be better, but I'll keep you guys updated. But yeah, it's definitely a positive. So that's the latest things going on. A lot of stuff, as you can tell. Great things, really, overall. Let me know your thoughts. Is there anything in particular that you're really excited about what I've discussed? And don't forget to like and subscribe if you did like this video, so you can be updated for future XRP content. And also hit the notification bell so you can be alerted on when I do drop a new video. Thank you very much for watching this, and I'll see you all on the next one.